I Can Fly Season 2.
Let's go. All right. Today's going to be about Jake, because I think more people need to know about Jake Coughlin III. First off, since we both have our journals in front of us, tell me about your journaling. Like I think it's really inspirational to a lot of people in many ways, because journaling, you said it perfectly the other night, like the first time you ever started, you were literally writing, I don't know what to write.
Yeah.
And now it's, how many years has it been now?
Well, I would go back first and credit my best friend, Jake Block.
Which
Jake,
one?
The original, the OG JV.
He has two friends, Jake Block.
Correct. Yeah. The original JV. We've known each other since 4th grade. He's my best and dearest friend. Jake has always been a total craftsman with the word, and specifically the written word. And he really challenged me in the fall of 2022, when I was really going through a pretty transitional phase in life at that time, to write about it. And, well, I had always written sporadically. I mean, through the game of golf, I used to journal a lot in golf tournaments, and every now and then just kind of free flow and write. But then I started in that fall of 2022 when Jake really challenged me. And that, alongside with the inspiration of Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, that's when I really started getting into writing. And it became a habit of, like you said, the first time I wrote when Jake challenged me to, I started by writing, I don't really know what to write. And I don't remember what sentence 2 was, but eventually the point is that the pen and the ink just kind of find themselves. And before you know it, the thoughts that are just going in your head constantly start to become a reality on the page, and they suddenly organize themselves. And for me, consistently now, that's been a tool where all of these thoughts that are going through my head, trying to figure out this mid-20s experiment right now of my human existence, they start to organize themselves on the paper and make sense. And I've found personally that I really write in 2 formats. One is really just writing out an experience I had that day. So it could be something that you and I did that was this incredible memory. And as we all know, time goes on and we forget far too much. And if you just take that 10, 15, 20 minutes, even 5 minutes, whatever it is, and write down that experience that day, it lives on then forever. And the second way that I write is really just free-flowing thoughts. It's curiosities, it's fears, it's concerns, it's whatever it may be. It's just free-flowing, and there's really no intention behind it, but it typically starts off with some sort of question or thing that's going on up in my head, and by the end of the entry, it's at least solved itself a little bit more. And so it's been a lot of fun. It's a practice I feel like really blessed to fall in love with, and I carry around these little journals that I keep reordering, and I think I've probably filled, I think this is my 15th one.
Wow.
In almost a year and a half.
Damn.
So it's been pretty fun.
And so, like, you've been working with a friend and a mentor of yours, Chet, right?
Yeah.
With the book that he wrote and the compilation of journals kind of throughout the last, you said 25 years or so. That he's gone back and created this, I guess, motivational kind of guidance of life book that inspires people to read the entry of his each day and then journal and write on your thoughts and your feelings about that, correct?
Yeah. So Chet and I were introduced through a guy named Brett Kaufman in Columbus,
What's Chet's
Ohio.
full name?
Chet Scott. And he runs a practice called Built to Lead in Columbus, Ohio. And frankly, actually, I found Brett through his podcast called the Gravity Podcast, which is centered out of Columbus, Ohio. And Brett's a really tremendous developer in the city, and has worked with Chet and credited a lot of his success and growth in his career to his work with him. And I reached out to Brett on Instagram and just said, hey, I love your show and love to meet for lunch sometime. And we spent a couple hours getting to know each other. And he said, hey, I've got somebody that I think would be really interesting for you to meet. And that's when he introduced me to Chet. And it's been a really, really neat journey together. We practice together once a week, but specifically what you're asking about is a book that anyone can buy called 365 Days to Becoming Built to Lead. And it's basically a daily writing prompt where each day you read a 1-page prompt. And it could be about, I mean, clearly, because this has happened serendipitously too many times, where I'm writing about something that is, or I'm reading something that is just tailor-made for what I'm feeling that day. He's clearly got a rhythm to his rhyme in terms of what he's putting together here in a book. But it's just been an addition to kind of my more free-flowing writing, and this has more structure around it. He's prompting the thoughts, but I definitely think for anyone that is looking to get into writing, to actually have a prompted, style writing where you're not having to just come up with it in your head. There's some great journals out there. The 5-minute journal I did for a little while at one point too, where you're prompted to write in the morning and at night. But 365 Days to Becoming Built to Lead is a really, really special book. And I'm on day 93 today.
Congratulations.
Keep going.
Do you think that your journals, like how often do you go back and read them? Is there any, do you think you'll type them up one day, or will they just live in the journals? Do you, like,
yeah. Yeah, this is crazy. It's just funny being across the other side of you asking me these questions, but I don't think I'll ever type them. There's far too much. I mean, that would take years. But I do guard them, I think, almost as my most protected asset at this point. Wow. I mean, these are literally living memories. I have pages that have tears on them, wow. Where I'm writing, and it's such an emotional experience. There's literally physical evidence of that emotion and that writing that day.
Wow.
You can't buy those memories. You can't find those somewhere else. I mean, it's raw, it's ink. I mean, I'm holding this physical evidence of that moment I experienced when I wrote it that day. Probably the most emotional thing that's come out of my writing is, sometime around a year ago, I started writing to my children, which I don't have any children today. But the one thing personally that I've always known I wanted to be in my life was a father. And, I start every now and then, I'll just write a little paragraph and I'll title it Kids. And it'll just be what I feel is like almost a little cheat code of some sort, or a learned lesson that will just be universal. And some lessons you have to learn the hard way in some capacity. But my hope, at least, is that one day when my children are at this age, I can hand them this massive box of these journals and just be like, here you go.
Wow.
Here was me trying to figure it out. And hopefully it can provide some sort of, inspiration to them in some capacity. I mean,
that's special.
It's wild. It makes me emotional, and it's weird because, again, my children don't exist in this world. I don't have any, but I feel their presence when I write to them. And
damn.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Do you think you've been able to feel more since you've dove into Wachuma and mushrooms and plant medicine, or spirituality? Like, have you been able to connect to the future and the past and other possible dimensions, like, because of that? Or do you think it's because of your journaling, or like what have you learned the most from that?
I don't think after having that deep of spiritual experiences, I don't think I've ever really looked at the world the same way.
In regards to
what's important? Wachuma was my first experience with you, and you really, kind of led the way on why you felt that was something I should try. And again, back to my best friend, Jake was there to do it with me, which he and I think find a lot of strength and courage and kind of really trying anything together, whether it's the new hardest run on a mountain or an experience like Wachuma. I don't know how to answer that question directly. I feel like ever since then, I've just had a different empathy level and an ability to hopefully be more present and listen to others and just have a deeper empathy for whatever it is. Because that day we started in a shala with 50 strangers. And for those who don't know what that is, it's a structure. So just picture like a beautiful hut.
Like a tiki hut.
Right.
Like bigger, rounder.
Overlooking the ocean. And this was in Costa Rica, and it was a gorgeous experience and day. But we started the day with 50 strangers, and 14, 15 hours later, though I didn't know really anyone in this group by name, I felt like I knew all of them, because even without speaking to them, I could feel the levels of experiences they'd had in their lives, and the suffering they had gone through, the love they'd gone through, right? And then what was felt at the end of it was this shared, incredible, deep love for one another. And it didn't need to be said, right? And I'll never forget, a week after Jake and I were flying back home, it was just prior to Christmas, and we're sitting in the security line to go through, TSA in Nosara there at Liberia. And, about 15 people back, we spot a man and his wife that were in our ceremony together. And I mean, it was like a beam of light was on them. Like, this was just, there were hundreds of people around here, but here these two are. And we made eye contact, never met each other during the ceremony. We knew exactly who each other were.
Wow.
It was just that wild thing where it's like, again, I'm there with 50 people. I would probably recognize 30 of them. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that's pretty wild.
Yeah. So if no one really know, or someone who's listening doesn't know what wachuma is, another word for it is San Pedro, and it's a cactus, and it's a plant medicine per se. It's a special way that the cactus is harvested and utilized for ceremonial purposes in the native culture.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't categorize it as a psychedelic, because I'd say only 20% of people might see some kind of fractals or geometric patterns. But if it was to be described in one sentence or one phrase, it would be a heart-opening plant medicine.
I couldn't agree more.
Meaning that it teaches you how to love yourself more, and how to be open to everything around you, and understanding that everything is us, and we are everything, and we are nothing, and we are everything. It's so mind-blowing, because it's something that I needed so much in my life. Mm-hmm. And the first time I ever did it was the first time I ever said, "I love you, Morgan." Mm-hmm. And I didn't know really what that felt like. Mm-hmm. Because I was always taught to be better, and you weren't good enough, and to always focus on the negatives, because there's always something more to be better at, I guess. Yeah. And that was the first time I was just like, I'm full. Yeah. And to keep this on topic of your experiences, because I'm selfishly want to learn more about your journey on this episode. I'm going to bring it back to something that could possibly be a little hard to talk about, but I think this is what we're all about here at I Can Fly, is vulnerability. Sure. And I guess my question is, do you think you would be here today? Do you think you would have gone through these experiences, these self-experimentations of plant medicine, if you ended up getting married? Because you were engaged to a woman you loved, and probably still have love for. Yeah, very much so. And take me through that experience and that decision of breaking off the engagement, and now this last year and a half of emptiness and fullness, and not knowing what to do. And I mean, I appreciate you bringing it up. I mean, it's that was the very, transformational time in fall of 22 for me. And, definitely, I don't know, to answer your question directly, do I feel like I would have had those experiences if we would have gone through with things?
obviously we're sitting here, balancing what ifs. We don't know what would have happened and whatnot in life, but I probably think so, in all honesty.
At some point, maybe. Yeah.
At some point, definitely not at the same rate. I think there would have been open-mindedness or curiosity there, and frankly, just because I'm somebody that is just deeply intellectually curious about what is going on and wanting to learn more. And frankly, that was the seed behind this entire, concept together. But, so I think probably at some point, I don't know when, but, yeah, that time in life, I came home, her and I called things off in November of 2022. And we'd been engaged for 4 months at that point. And, it was a tough time. It was a tough time for each of us. Nobody wins in a scenario like that. There was only love there between each of us. And frankly, I think probably there only still is love. But I called you, in that moment, and you were there. With a lending hand to say, hey, come down. I told you I wanted to go somewhere new and experience something beautiful. I wanted to learn how to surf and just be in a beautiful place and process, frankly, because so much had taken place, not just on the personal side of life and our relationship, but also on the professional side. And I wanted to take time to really process what had all just happened, because life just hit the fast forward button at a rate that was really fast. And I wanted to learn from it, because there were steps that were made that were, in hindsight, probably a bit reckless and cavalier, and could have been avoided if there were, more patience and time to really see through, what was ahead. And so, yeah, I don't know where else to take that, but
take it from the Costa Rican experience when you first came down there, because I remember you calling me after and you were like, what do I do? Like, I want to just not do anything. And I'm like, hey, I think you should come down here and let go and experience something new and get out. And that kind of was the catalyst for your exploration of the world. Like, you took so many trips since then with other friends and without other friends, going to New Zealand on your own and having like time to just find yourself. And I want to hear more about that, the lessons that you learned in the last year on your journeys.
Well, I went from, basically where the genesis of that was I went from having a calendar every day that was full from, dawn to dusk, pretty much daily, from a working capacity to moving on from that after we'd sold our company and suddenly having a ton of free time in front of me and a large transition in life. And so I think what I look back on and have really learned in this time is, just to have a greater patience with myself too, and to take time to really understand that your actions, have large impacts on others too. I've been an only child my whole life until my dad and stepmom had a little girl. So I have a 9-year-old little sister, Carly, now, who's like the little light of my life.
Amazing.
And, but, I've been able to do a lot of just what I wanted for being an only child, and a relationship certainly is not that. And so I feel like I've learned more about the meaning of marriage in the last year and a half, and truly the depth of that and what that commitment means, both in the eyes and light of myself and also in the light of God too, and what a marriage truly means. And I didn't really have a perspective on that as much. My parents were divorced when I was 9, and I've seen divorce, a lot in my family, and it's created a lot of fear, frankly, in me. Not that I had a wonderful childhood, a lot of beautiful experiences, but divorce was definitely a hard thing. Mm-hmm. And it has created, a fear of divorce in me that's very real. And so I've had to learn how to kind of cope with that fear, and frankly still because it's something that, like I said earlier, my number one purpose I know for being in life is to be a father. And a part of that process will be to find the other half of that. And so, yeah, I mean, when I came down to Costa Rica, it was just a beautiful experience. I remember first getting there and feeling completely foreign to where I was. And like, I was traveling alone and you were down there waiting, but I was staying on my own in a place in a, pretty foreign, town with dirt roads and an ATV that I'd rented and, but open road in front, and it was just a really special place. I quickly got to meet JP, who we had on in, season 1. And I think, anybody that watches that episode can see why he became such a dear friend so quickly. I mean, he just took me in like a brother and a son almost, in the first couple days of getting to know him. And you and I got crazy close in that time. You were really there to listen to me and hear out, the last couple of years and what had taken place. And yeah, I just started writing every day. I just started filling up these journals with just thoughts. And I think the day that we actually had our Wachuma ceremony together, I think I filled probably 30, 40 pages of my journal just that day. And that was just a, conglomerate of just lessons and looking back thoughts, but, trying to make sense of it all in a way of which could help you move forward and learn to be in a better position when you're there in the future. But yeah, it led to a lot of other cool travels down the road, and now we're here.
So a lot of people, I've told you this often in your search in the last year and a half, for something new and meaningful to you to continue to do, to build in your life, to create. I've said, like, sometimes when you're lost, I was like, Jeg, like, so many people in their life aspire to be in your position, to have a company and sell it, and to be have financial freedom. And I just want to know, like, what are some of the things that you've learned, or some advice that you have, and that you've felt for people in that place that can be grateful for a lot of things in their life, but are wanting or searching for more.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, we use the word gratitude a lot, right? And sometimes you throw that word out there and it's like, oh God, it's like, yeah, of course I need to feel more gratitude. And like, I don't know, at least for me, it can feel like it doesn't actually mean that much because we just throw it out there. But even tonight, we sat at dinner, and right before we dug in, we went around and said something we were grateful for. And it made, the meal feel a little bit more special because we actually took the time to say it to one another. But I think it's interesting, right? Because the desire for more comes from it's a balance, right? The desire for more is also what fuels you, right? That's what motivates you. That's what encourages you. And I think the hope is that desire for more also comes from a place that is selfless, and that you're wanting to create more for others. I think the ultimate form of mastery in life is to develop either a knowledge or a skill of something and develop individual mastery over it, and then find ways to give that back to others. So I think that it's a balance, right? You don't want to live a life where you're constantly unhappy with what you have, because we have so much just within us, right? And I think the crazy thing that wealth brings from a monetary standpoint is freedom, but with that freedom comes great responsibility too. And you realize that there's so much deeper meaning in the relationships that were always there, and the places that you form deep meaning in. And so I think it's a balance, right? Yeah, I would go back to saying I think it's a balance.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Yeah, it's wild, the things that you learn and the things that you can be grateful for, and just the practice of being grateful can sometimes feel silly, but like the exercise that we're doing right now, this 30-day challenge of saying I love you in the morning, it's like, it can feel silly, but then you learn that it can get either monotonous or feel ridiculous until you're like, okay, why am I doing this? How can I break this down and make it be meaningful? And that practice, going back to the gratefulness, is like the same thing. Like, let's be grateful for this microphone right here. Yeah. Not because it makes us sound like we actually sound to the listeners, but like the material that this is made of, the people that had to find this material from this earth, create it into the metal, create it into the whatever foam this is right here, create the technology that went into this to record it. And all of, like, hundreds, if not thousands of people were involved in this device right here.
Yeah.
Like, and to have this sitting in front of us, and we spent a couple $100 on it, and it just came into our life like that.
Yeah.
Like, breaking it down and getting very molecular about things, like, can really make you feel the gratefulness of life, because we're not just a being that's running around trying to make money and then die, you know, like we're so much more than that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think perspective is like the most important thing for us to try to find, and also the hardest to attain, right? Because we're living with so many things that we just take for granted each day. You know, so many of our days just flow together because we're just going back and forth, and we've got busy schedules and things. And so you forget to take these momentary pauses of, you know, just being grateful for the things that you get to have each day. And I think the worst form that can then come back in is that you forget to feel grateful for the people in your life that you love, whether that's your spouse or your parents, your children, your best of friends, whatever it is, right? So if you practice having gratitude for like all the little things, it flows upward, you know, into the major things in your life too.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of friends, you absolutely fascinate me with your friends. You have so many damn friends. You call so many people a day. I've never known someone that's on the phone more than you that per day with so many meaningful people. It's not just, you're just not just bullshitting. You're having like meaningful conversations with people from the moment you get up till the moment you go to sleep every single day. And it's amazing to learn from you, and to realize for everybody that your friends are your family that you get to choose. And the people that you surround yourself with are ultimately who you're going to become.
Yeah, always.
Because you're learning. And like we talk about being chameleonic, like you take, everyone is, you take something from each person that you surround yourself, and it becomes you, you know, because we're beings that are learning and educating and evolving from what we see and what we experience.
Sure.
So my question is, like, I've known you since you were 15 or 16, and you've been the same since then, of like seeking out knowledge and seeking out people that are of all ages. And like, you know, you go to lunch with an 80-year-old at the Bears Club and you sit there for 3 hours and have an in-depth intellectual conversation about business, and you're like 11 years old. Like, I mean, come on. So I want to know what's in your head. Like, what are you do you think you were just born that way, and you have interest in others, or is it something that like you're seeking? Or
I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I don't know. It's deeply rooted in curiosity and just an enjoyment of conversation. Like, I think golf has been an incredible vehicle to getting to meet so many people. Obviously you and I are an example of that. But when it comes to, you know, elders, I mean, it like the game of golf brings you around that, right? You folks play golf from, you know, in all age ranges. And so when you're at the club and you get to, you know, sit at the grill room and something, you know, it teaches you to learn how to converse in those situations, look people in the eye, shake them in the hand, you know, shake their hands, look them in the eye. And, I don't know. I love conversation, but my best of friends, I'm very, very grateful for. I've got an incredible circle that, you know, definitely keeps tightening over the years. You know, I mean, people, I feel like at least as I grow up, you kind of can grow apart from some people too, because you just maybe value different things as you get older. But for the most part, I've been really blessed to have such a deep and meaningful group of friends, you know, that go all the way back to, you know, second and third grade even. You know, one of my best friends, Sean, I was with, and we don't get to see each other but 3 or 4 times a year now, Sean McLaughlin. but he's my longest friend. I've known him since third grade, and I saw him in New York this year, and he just has always looked the same even. His voice sounds the same, he looks the same, and I like got emotional when I saw him because I was just like, man, I've been through a lot of seasons of life, and you've been there for each one of them.
Wow.
And it's like as time goes on, I feel so much more thankful for the people who have stuck through all these different seasons of life, rather than maybe sad about the folks who haven't, right? And so the relationships just grow in time. And I think that's what makes losing a relationship really hard too, is you've spent years together, and the idea of when you start something new, it's like, it's just that you're starting something new, and what's lost is the years that you spent with somebody. And that's something for me that's like hard to wrap my head around, is from a relationship sense, but something I think I'm learning too.
What is something you've learned from one of your friends that's always stuck with you?
That's a great question. It's a very direct question.
Or is there anything that you could tell other people to do to kind of expel expel a lesson from a friend, like to?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would say like I gave way too much weight to a lot of my friends' opinions for a long time, and I'm saying that with love and grace for some of my friends, and again, this is some, and it's meaningless as to who. It's just this is really around relationships, because what I've really learned in time is like a relationship is two people. I'm talking about a loving relationship, a couple. It's two people, and only two people really know that full experience together. But I would always look for others' opinions and what was going on, and I gave way too much weight to that, and especially from folks that maybe didn't really even lead a relationship in their life that is exactly how I would want to. So these are all lessons you compile along the way, right? And so
a great lesson.
I guess where I was going with that, what I've learned at least, is to be really careful about the advice that you're going to give to your friends when they reach out to you. Really to just be a listener more than anything else, because the strongest answers come from within you. And sometimes it takes time to get there. But the more you can help guide someone to getting to their own answer, rather than you telling them what you think it is, well, A, it's going to get them naturally more to the correct answer for them. And B, it's going to deepen your friendship because you were actually there for them. And you listened to them. You respected what they were going through. And so I've been very fortunate to have some really special friends in my life, and especially over the last 2 years, even some new friends that have come into my life. Some that I've known for a long time but gotten closer to. I think one of my best friends, Trent Jones, that's just become a powerhouse. I mean, I talk to him every day. He's a pastor back home at Linworth Baptist Church, and we've known each other since middle school, and the kid's just full of life. He texts me pretty much every day, randomly saying, I'm praying for you, or something funny, whatever it may be. And it's like, man, but also I look to someone like that and say, he has an incredible wife, Kiara. They've got their first child, and he leads an incredible, honest and life that I think is really honorable. And so he's somebody who I will call now and try to get good advice from, because it's coming from a place that is where I'm aspiring to be too. So, yeah.
I think listening is such a skill that you need to learn. I mean, that I've always needed to learn, and I learn more that I have such a, not like ADD, but I like to have a lot of information coming in at all times, and I like to find solutions for things. I'm curious as well, like you, and I'm creative, and I like to find the answers and figure it out. But I realize, especially in the loving relationship that I have with my wife, Chelsea, that that's not what she wants all the time. And I can utilize that in conversations with other people as well. And it's like, she always asks me she presents, maybe it's a problem, maybe it's an issue, maybe it's something that is hurting her or making her feel great, regardless of what it is. The first thing that she always asks for is to listen to her feelings, and not come up with a solution immediately, and to feel those feelings. Because I think the first thing in a conversation is to empathize and sympathize and feel what the other person's feeling before jumping in and offering your advice, because your advice might not be solicited or like asked for.
Totally.
And
yeah, words are powerful.
Yeah, like we all have advice to give from our own experience, but our experience is different than others.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're great at is learning and absorbing so much information from so many people, and you do have a lot of knowledge and advice to give. And it's just cool to know how much you always wanted to learn. And I think
it comes from my mom.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah. I mean, my mom is like, she's I don't know, she's freaking magic. Like, I love my mom, and she's incredibly smart. And she's had her challenges in life and ups and downs in relationships, and but she's been the most incredible mom and the most dedicated mom. This woman would do anything for me, and still does. And she's there if I need a shoulder to cry on or just an ear to listen to, but I think it comes from her. I really know it does. I mean, I like from a very young age can recall us, listening to really interesting music together, or her reading like pretty intricate books at a young age or whatever it was. Like, I remember always watching movies together that were probably not necessarily like R-rated or something, but more like, intellectually stimulating when I was young, because she just is a total thinker, and she's very curious about life, and somebody that was very dedicated to health and wellness. She originally was the one who started our JEGS foundation, which was our family foundation back home. My mom had cervical cancer about a month after I was born, and at the time was, told it was a sentence, and she wasn't going to live through it. But fortunately powered through and was able to, get cured, and then start an amazing foundation back home, which benefited the James and Ohio State University Medical Center back home.
Amazing.
But she's an amazing woman, and I'm very grateful to call her my mom, for sure.
Man, we're lucky to have good moms.
Yeah.
My mom's amazing too.
Yeah.
Gratefulness for moms today.
That's for sure. Every day. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny. Like,
sometimes it's frustrating too, though. Like, my mom can be really frustrating too, because she thinks she always knows what's best, and she probably does in most cases. But she's an amazing mom, for sure.
Yeah. We met at the Bears Club the other day.
Yeah, that's right.
What was she playing? Poker or something?
No, mahjong.
Mahjong.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Oh man. Well, what are you excited about for the future in yourself and in this podcast?
Yeah, great question. I'd ask it back to you after me. I mean, we didn't know what this was going to become, and we still don't. Mm-hmm. And it's not even about that. I mean, what's been so fun is to get to see people interact with it, right? Mm-hmm. To see the comments from folks who have taken the time, which you and I are both of the same mindset, and that like time is the most valuable currency, period. And so the fact that folks have, felt called to dedicate their time to listening to what we're creating here is, mm-hmm. I don't know what's cooler. I mean, it's frankly one of the coolest experiences of my life to this point. And so I can't wait to keep connecting with folks and hearing their stories more, and hopefully in sharing some of our more vulnerable sides and seeing folks that come on the show share theirs too, people feel more empowered to expose that in their daily life too. I mean, I'm a firm believer that the more we really open ourselves up and share our true thoughts, the more we really realize how much we're all in common. Even just last night, I was writing in bed and just about some thoughts. And actually, it was after the mirror exercise. I did it again at night. And I wrote that when I look in the mirror, I see a lot of reflection of what I see in the rest of the world. And I don't really know what that means beyond that, like, I think that a lot of the thoughts that I have or questions about what's going on, a lot of people are having. And I think the more that we can share in that experience together, the more at home you feel, the more together you feel, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's everyone wants to feel community, and everyone wants to not feel like they're alone. You know, when I got first diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, I felt like I was the only one. I felt like I had no friends that have ever had it. And I was like, oh, maybe this is some rare disease. And then I realized when I do some research, I'm like, wow, a lot of people are struggling with this, and I'm not alone. Like, and it's okay. And I can relate. And, yeah, it's so amazing that the word community continues to come up even more on a daily basis in this lifetime because of all the crazy things going on in this world. And you see so many people being like, hey, get a group of 10 friends, let's go move somewhere and build a homestead and just like protect ourselves.
Yeah,
and
we're probably going to do that at some point together. Jay Ross can come too.
For sure.
I think also, like, I mean, I'm super, excited about what's ahead in golf. I want to keep bettering my game and competing in more tournaments. And,
ditto.
That's a journey each of us are on. I mean, I've learned a ton from watching how you approach the game and how you've rededicated your daily life to training again. And just spending some more time on that personally has been, a project I'm really excited about. Definitely putting more emphasis on family too. Been spending more time with my grandparents and just kind of recognizing, frankly, actually, a great wisdom that one of my best friends gave me the other day, Big Nick. He said to me, he asked me, how old your grandparents? And in this case said, 86. And he said, okay, well, realistically, how much longer do you think they have to live? Said, I don't know. Again, it sounds like, somewhat of a morbid, thought or conversation, but I said, probably 5-7 years. I don't know, right? None of us know. But he said, okay, well, how many times you see him in a year? Kind of shook my head and thought, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times maybe. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, well, you're going to spend, maybe 15 more times with him that you're going to see. And it was just a totally different perspective than saying like, okay, you're on for 5 more years, to be like, you're going to spend 15 more moments together. Wow. It totally changed my perspective. And, I've been calling my grandpa and my grandma a lot more lately. And
that's cool.
Cause you look at them, it's like, you're not here without them. Right. I mean, this is truly your ancestors, right? Like, for me, I mean, my grandparents on each side have given me so much opportunity in my life. I mean, my grandfather took a dream, when he was 16 years old as a hot rodder in Columbus, Ohio. The guy who grew up with a family in the department store industry in Columbus, Lazarus, and he fell in love with cars. And much to the community and his family's dismay, decided to start Jegs Automotive in 1960, just off the back of a dream. He started going to the local Columbus drag strip and worked up a reputation for being the fastest guy at the track, and people wanted a place for him to be able to work on their cars. And so when he was 18 years old, he started Jegs Automotive in Columbus, Ohio. And that dream, which was all built off of passion and love, never with the vision for what it could be and what it would become,
right,
has given now, 2 generations later, an ability to dream and really, reach for the stars of whatever I could imagine, and beyond that also, the responsibility to live on that legacy and hopefully live his namesake proud as well, and be a name jag after him too. And, but just having that gratitude, you know, it's like I was with him a week ago for dinner, and, you know, I said to him, just, you know, is there anything you want or need? You know, I just want to be here for you. You know, I mean, you've created everything for this family, you know, and is there anything, you know, that I can do? You know, I love you, you know, and I said that at the end, and he's like, that's it right there. You know, just to feel that. Wow. You know, and I can tell that it's real. You know, that's what he said to me.
Isn't that crazy? Like,
yeah,
it all comes down to feeling love,
yeah.
like from others, from yourself. Like there's no amount of money that can equal that.
Yeah. I'm going to like butcher some of Built to Lead's mission statement, but at the end it's transforming us from a lone to all one L of a difference. And that one L is love. Mm-hmm. And,
damn.
Yeah, it's very powerful stuff. Yeah, love is the most sought after emotion for sure, and the most beautiful one. And I think like we learned from Jack in his conversation, like Mr. Nicholas spoke about, you know, feeling good for others, right? In a competition sense, but also in a life sense, you know, but he used it, you know, in an example with the game of golf where, you know, you get beat, you shake your competitor, you know, in their hand and look them in the eye and say, great job, and genuinely feel happy for them. Yeah. And I think when you're giving love back to the world, you know, you're putting that energy out there, right? There's a great song that's, I clearly can bounce around a lot in conversations, but I always try to circle back to the point. But there's probably my favorite John Mayer song, which he's been my favorite artist since I was probably 12 years old. It's a song called Wheel. And the last lyric of the song is, I believe that my life's going to see the love I give return to me. And that's one that I've certainly always lived by.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, everybody, I guess, deeply wishes that, right? It's crazy, like when you unselfishly give, it feels so amazing. And you're not looking for that. Yeah. That feeling, like you're not doing it because of that. You're just doing it because like you feel yourself and others, and like the golden rule, right? Like do what you think that you want and you feel is best, and that like ultimate respect for others, because you know that we're all one. And it's just this opportunity of having a podcast. We were talking about it earlier. It doesn't really feel like we're embarking on a new endeavor of a journey that like is going to be difficult, and like, oh, we have to have a 9 to 5 and be stressed, and it feels like it's really genuine, and
it's fun
and it's just, yeah, it doesn't feel like we're doing anything. We're just here talking. And I just hope that some people can get something out of it from our stories. And as you said earlier, hearing the comments and seeing the comments that people have shared, and taking their valuable time and listening to us, and listening to our guests mainly. It's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. It's, like I said, definitely been, you know, truly one of the great joys of my life. And I'm really excited to see, you know, where we continue to take this thing and learn from the conversations we have. I mean, you and I know, we can't share it in this conversation, but you and I know what's to come down the pipe. And, and, I think it's going to be pretty exciting just to have the opportunity to sit down with folks that have been able to live out a dream, you know, to take something that they saw as a child and were able to see it to existence. I mean, I think that's like probably the coolest energy there is out there, you know, and hopefully that can inspire children too, right? To see out theirs.
So, everybody, we're all children deep down inside, right?
True.
And we're always trying to relate back to our child self. Man, it's just ultimately it's about having fun and enjoying it and being happy. Yeah. And I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Love you, bro.
Likewise, brother.
I could fly.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.